My name is Paige Hartley, and I was 29 years old when my father Douglas Hartley decided to treat me like a child in front of our entire family. It was Thanksgiving at his house, and the living room was packed with relatives, cousins, aunts, uncles, and people I only saw once a year. The table was loud, the food smelled rich, and everyone was pretending we were close. I tried to keep my distance, because Douglas loved an audience, and he loved being right. My brother Logan Hartley sat near him, relaxed and smug, like he knew something I did not. I had been quiet all evening, smiling when I had to, answering small questions, trying not to spark a scene. But my grandmother Margot Hartley had passed months earlier, and the silence around her estate had started to feel wrong. I finally asked Douglas, calmly, if there was any update about what Margot left behind, and what would happen next. I did not demand money. I did not accuse anyone. I only asked for clarity. The room went quiet in that sharp way, where you can hear forks pause. Douglas stared at me. Then he laughed, slow and dismissive, like I had told a joke. He said I was being disrespectful. And he said I should stop obsessing over inheritance. I tried to explain that I only wanted to know the process, but he cut me off, and his voice got louder. He said I was grounded, and he said I would stay in my old childhood room for the rest of the weekend until I learned manners. People chuckled, like it was a harmless performance, and I felt my face burn. Logan smirked and did not defend me, not even a little. I stood there, frozen, while Douglas played the role of a strict father, and the family played along, because it was easier than questioning him. When I tried to speak again, Douglas pointed toward the hallway, like he was ordering a dog. I walked away, because fighting in that moment would have fed him. In the bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed, hands shaking, listening to laughter float down the hall, and I realized something painful. Douglas did not want me informed. He wanted me small, and he wanted the family to watch. I stayed in that childhood room for a while, and my hands would not stop shaking. Downstairs I heard laughter, plates clinking, and Douglas Hartley telling stories like a king. I sat on the bed and stared at old posters on the wall, and I felt something harden in my chest. I was 29 years old, and he had grounded me like I was 13, and no one stopped him. Logan Hartley had smiled, and my aunts and uncles had laughed, because it was easier than discomfort. I looked at my phone and saw missed calls from cousins, not to help, but to gossip. I packed quietly, folding a few clothes, grabbing my wallet, my keys, and the one framed photo I still kept of Margot Hartley. I waited until the house got louder, until everyone was distracted by dessert and football. Then I walked down the hall and past the stairwell. The front door creaked, and my heart jumped. But nobody came. I stepped outside into the cold night air, and the silence hit me like relief. I drove away without turning back because I knew if I hesitated, I would stay trapped in their story. I parked at a gas station and sat with the engine off, staring at my hands on the steering wheel. Part of me wanted to cry, and part of me wanted to laugh, because the cruelty was so theatrical. Around midnight, I checked my phone again, and there was a text from Douglas. He said if I wanted to act grown, I could stay gone. He said I was ungrateful, and he said Margot would be ashamed of my behavior. That message made my stomach twist, because Douglas used Margot's name like a weapon, even after she was gone. I did not reply. I booked a small hotel for the night, and I slept in short, shallow pieces, waking up with my jaw clenched. In the morning, I expected more messages, more pressure, but what I got was silence. And in that silence, I realized Douglas did not care where I went, as long as I stopped asking questions. The next morning I drove back once, not to apologize, but to collect the few things I left behind. I expected Douglas Hartley to be waiting, ready to punish me again, but the driveway was crowded and tense. Cars were parked along the curb, and people stood in clusters, whispering with stiff faces. When I walked up, Logan Hartley glanced at me and looked away fast, like he did not want to meet my eyes. Douglas stood near the living room, arms crossed, jaw tight, trying to look in control. Then I saw a man in a dark coat, holding a leather folder, calm, in the middle of the chaos. He introduced himself as Martin Prescott and said he was the attorney for Margot Hartley. The room shifted, like everyone suddenly remembered why we were there. Martin asked to speak with me directly, and Douglas stepped forward, voice sharp, asking why I was involved. Martin did not argue. He simply said Margot left instructions, and those instructions named me. I felt my pulse climb, and I watched Douglas' face change, from irritation to panic, then back to a forced smile. Douglas tried to dismiss it, saying he was handling everything, but Martin asked for privacy and documentation. Relatives started drifting closer, hungry for drama, and Douglas hated that his power was slipping. Logan tried to act bored, but his shoulders were tense, and his fingers kept tapping his phone. Martin asked if I had received any paperwork about the estate, or any notices, and I said no. I said I had been asking for updates, and I was punished for asking. A few cousins laughed awkwardly, then stopped when they saw Martin's expression. Martin, said Margot, had anticipated conflicts, and she had prepared protections, and he needed to verify my identity and contact details. Douglas interrupted again, claiming I was unstable, and that I could not be trusted with money. Martin looked at him, then looked at me, and said he was not here to take opinions. He was here to follow written instructions. The room went quiet, and for the first time since Margot passed, I felt like someone was finally listening to the truth. Martin Prescott asked everyone to sit, and he opened the leather folder slowly. He laid out documents on the coffee table, and the paper looked heavier than it should, because it carried years of planning. He explained that Margot Hartley created an irrevocable trust, and that trust named one primary beneficiary. Then he said my name, Paige Hartley, clearly, in front of everyone. I heard a few sharp breaths, and I saw heads turn, like people were checking if I was real. Douglas Hartley went stiff, and his lips pressed into a thin line. Logan Hartley stared at the floor, then looked up too fast, like he was trying to pretend surprise. Martin said there were also recent filings, submitted without my knowledge, attempting to change beneficiary information. He said those filings included statements claiming I could not be reached, and that was false. Douglas tried to speak, but Martin raised one hand, calm and firm, and continued. He said Margot included a verification clause, requiring direct confirmation from me, and any change without that confirmation would be challenged. Martin, said the trust assets, included a sum of $620,000, and the title to a home and a coastal cottage, all directed to me. The room exploded into whispers, then into questions, then into arguments, but Martin kept his voice steady. He said his duty was to Margot instructions, not to Douglas feelings, and not to family pressure. Douglas' face went red, and he accused Martin of misunderstanding, then accused me of manipulating my grandmother. Martin replied that Margot letters and records were detailed, and her intent was documented. Logan tried to slip out of the room, but a cousin called his name, and everyone watched him stop. Martin said there would be a formal reading, and there would be immediate steps, including removing Douglas from any trustee role, pending review. When Martin said that Douglas looked like the air had been punched out of him, I sat very still, because I had waited months for answers, and now the answers were landing like thunder. I did not feel greedy, and I did not feel victorious. I felt something cleaner than that. I felt seen, and I felt the lie cracking in public. Douglas Hartley tried to turn the room back into his courtroom, and he did it the only way he knew, by attacking my character. He said I was unstable. And he said I was ungrateful. And he said Margot Hartley must have been confused at the end. A few relatives nodded out of habit because they were used to believing him. Martin Prescott did not raise his voice, but he did not back down. He said, Margot paperwork was consistent, and the trust was irrevocable, and intent was supported by letters, notes, and dated records. Douglas said the family should handle things privately, and Martin said private is where manipulation hides. Logan Hartley finally spoke, and he tried to sound innocent. He said he had no idea any filings happened, and he said he never asked for changes. Martin looked at him and asked if he had submitted any documents or signed anything related to the trust. Logan hesitated, and that hesitation was louder than words. The room watched him, and the air tightened. Douglas snapped at Martin, demanding to see every page, and Martin said he would, but not without process, and not without my consent. Douglas took a step toward the table, like he might sweep the papers away, and two uncles shifted in their seats, suddenly unsure whose side they were on. I stayed quiet, because I understood something in that moment. Douglas wanted my reaction, my tears, my anger, anything he could label childish. So I kept my spine straight, and I let the documents speak. Martin asked me to confirm my contact information, and he asked if I ever received notice of any changes. I said no, and I said I was punished for asking questions. A few cousins stopped smiling, because the memory of Douglas grounding me was still fresh. Douglas tried to laugh it off again, but the laugh sounded thin, and no one joined him. Martin said there would be a formal reading and immediate protective steps, and he would contact the court regarding false statements. Douglas' face went pale, and for the first time that night, he looked less like a judge and more like a man realizing the room could no longer be controlled. 2 days later, Martin Prescott held the formal reading in a small office, and the family showed up like it was a performance they deserved. Douglas Hartley arrived early, jaw tight, eyes sharp, pretending confidence. Logan Hartley came behind him, quieter than usual, checking his phone too often. Relatives packed the chairs, whispering, choosing sides, trying to predict who would win. I sat near Martin, because he said it mattered that I was present, and that I heard everything clearly. Martin read Margot Hartley words in a steady voice, and her tone came through even on paper. She wrote about love, but she also wrote about patterns, and how certain people in the family used shame as control. Then, Martin read the section, naming me, Paige Hartley, as the sole beneficiary of the irrevocable trust. Douglas shifted in his seat, and his knuckles turned white. Martin continued, listing the assets: $620,000, the home on Hawthorne Street, and the cottage in Canon Beach. The room made a sound like wind, a wave of breath and disbelief. Douglas tried to interrupt, but Martin kept going, and he read the clause about attempted changes. He explained that filings had been submitted, claiming I could not be reached, and that those statements were false. He said those filings were linked to Douglas and Logan, and they would be reviewed. Logan stared at the floor, and his face tightened, like he was swallowing something bitter. Douglas exploded, saying it was a misunderstanding, saying it was for the good of the family. Martin replied that good intentions do not require false statements to a court. He said he would begin steps to remove Douglas from any trustee authority, and he would report the attempted beneficiary change for ethical review. A cousin asked if that meant consequences, and Martin said yes, consequences exist for misconduct. Douglas looked around, searching for allies, but the room had changed. People were not laughing now. They were counting and questioning and remembering. I sat still, listening to my grandmother defend me from beyond the grave, and I realized Margot did not leave me a gift. She left me protection. After the reading, Relatives came at me in waves, some apologizing, some asking for details, some treating the whole thing like gossip. I kept my answers short because I did not owe anyone a full report on my pain. Douglas Hartley cornered me near the hallway, and his voice dropped low, pretending it was private. He said we could fix this, and he said the family should not be divided. He promised to make things right, but he spoke like he was negotiating a deal, not admitting harm. I asked him one simple question. Why did you ground me in front of everyone? Douglas said I embarrassed him, and he needed to teach respect. That answer told me nothing had changed. He still believed humiliation was parenting, and control was love. Logan Hartley tried a softer approach, stepping closer with a forced smile. He said he never wanted things to get messy, and he said we should move forward. I looked at him and asked if he signed anything, or asked for any changes. Logan avoided my eyes and said Douglas handled paperwork. Martin Prescott stood nearby, watching, and he asked Logan to repeat that clearly. Logan went quiet, then said he followed Douglas' advice. That was not a confession, but it was not innocence either. Douglas snapped at Martin, telling him to stop interfering, and Martin reminded him that the trust now required transparency. On the drive home, my hands shook on the steering wheel, but it was not fear. It was adrenaline draining out of my body. I kept thinking about that Thanksgiving night, about being sent to my childhood room while people laughed. Now those same people had watched Douglas lose control in public. The truth did not erase the humiliation, but it changed the balance. I arrived at my apartment, set Margot's photo on the counter, and breathed slowly. I did not feel rich, and I did not feel rescued. I felt something sharper, a boundary forming. The trust was mine, but more importantly, my voice was mine, and I was not going to hand it back. The week after the reading, Martin Prescott moved fast, because delay is where pressure grows. He filed the first motions, and he sent notices that were clear and formal. Douglas Hartley called me twice a day, voice swinging between rage and sweetness. He said, Martin was poisoning me, and he said I was letting strangers tear the family apart. When that did not work, he tried guilt, saying Margot Hartley would want unity, and I should stop humiliating him. I did not argue, because arguing feeds control. I told Douglas that unity without truth is only silence, and I ended the calls. Relatives started texting in clusters, some apologizing, some asking if I would share money, some pretending they always supported me. I kept my replies short, because my life was not a group project. Martin explained that the trust structure was designed to prevent bullying. He said Douglas could be removed from any trustee role because of the attempted beneficiary change and the false statements. Hearing that felt surreal, because my father always acted untouchable. Then I remembered Thanksgiving and the way he grounded me for asking a question. This was the consequence of that same instinct: control first, truth later. When the court notice arrived, Douglas did not call me, he called the relatives. He tried to sell a new story, saying he was protecting me, and Martin misunderstood, and the Logan Hartley was the real problem. That shift made my stomach turn, because Douglas would burn anyone to save himself, even his own son. Martin told me to stay calm, and to keep everything documented, because panic makes people careless. I did not feel victorious. I felt focused. Margot did not set this up to make me rich. She set it up to keep me safe. Logan Hartley reached out with a long message, and it read like a speech. He said he loved me, and he said he never wanted to hurt me, and he said Douglas Hartley pressured him. He asked if I could tell Martin Prescott to ease up, because things were getting serious. That line told me Logan was finally scared, not sorry. I asked Logan one simple question. Did you sign anything that tried to change the beneficiary? He avoided the question twice, then said he signed what Douglas put in front of him. He tried to make it sound harmless, like paperwork does not matter. Martin, said paperwork, is the whole point, because it shows intent. A cousin forwarded me a group chat where Logan was blaming me, calling me greedy, saying I was tearing the family apart for money. I did not respond to the chat. I saved it, because evidence is cleaner than anger. When Logan called, his voice was sharp, and he said I should be grateful I got anything. I reminded him that Margot Hartley chose this, and she documented why. Logan snapped that Margot hated Douglas, and that was why she did it. I told him that even if that were true, it still does not justify lying to a court. Logan went quiet. Then he said we could settle quietly and move on. I told him I was done with quiet, because quiet is where they grounded me, shamed me, and hid the truth. After that, Logan stopped calling, and the silence felt different. It did not feel like power. It felt like retreat. Martin Prescott met me at his office, and we went through the asset list line by line. He explained the steps to transfer titles, and he said we would move carefully, because Douglas Hartley might try delays. When Martin said the home on Hawthorne Street was legally directed to me, I felt a strange grief. That house was tied to childhood memories, some warm, some sharp, and now it carried a new meaning. The cottage in Canon Beach surprised me more, because I remembered Margot Hartley talking about the ocean like it was medicine. I could almost hear her voice, telling me to breathe, and to stop shrinking for other people's comfort. Martin, said Margot, left notes about why she chose those properties for me. She wrote that I needed a safe place and a quiet place, and she did not trust Douglas to provide either. I sat there, hands folded, trying to keep my face steady. I did not feel like I won. I felt like Margot had been watching and planning and refusing to let them erase me. Outside, relatives kept circling, asking if I would sell, asking if I would share, asking if I would forgive. I told myself I could decide generosity later, but first I needed boundaries. Douglas could call me greedy. Logan could call me cruel. But the documents said otherwise. And for the first time in a long time, I trusted the record more than their voices. As soon as the legal steps started moving, Douglas Hartley shifted tactics. He stopped yelling and started sounding wounded, like he was the one betrayed. He left voicemails saying he missed me, and he did not understand why I was doing this. Then he followed with the real message. He wanted me to sign something that would keep everything private. He said, "Families handle problems in-house, and public embarrassment is unforgivable." Martin Prescott told me not to sign anything without review, and he reminded me that secrecy is the oldest tool of control. Douglas framed it as protection, saying I would be safer if I kept quiet, and the family would calm down. I could hear the lie under the softness. He wanted quiet, because quiet lets him keep power. Relatives began repeating his line, saying we should not air dirty laundry. Those same relatives had laughed when he grounded me, and now they wanted dignity. I told them I was not the one who made it public. Douglas made it public when he humiliated me in front of everyone. The truth only arrived afterward. I spent nights reading documents, emails, and clauses, learning words I never wanted to know. It was exhausting, but it was also clarifying. Margot Hartley had designed this trust like a lock, and now I was learning the key. Every time my fear rose, I pictured that Thanksgiving living room, the way Douglas pointed me down the hall like I was property. I did not want revenge, but I refused to be controlled again. When the family realized the trust was real, the requests started. An aunt messaged me about medical bills. A cousin asked if I could help with tuition, and someone I barely knew asked if I could invest in a business. The tone was always polite, but the entitlement sat underneath it. They never asked how I felt. They asked what I would give. I learned quickly to say no in complete sentences. I said I would not make decisions under pressure, and I would not be guilted into generosity. Some people respected that, and some people got angry, as if my boundaries were an insult. Logan Hartley tried a different angle, sending a message saying we should heal, and we should not let Martin Prescott divide us. Then he added that he needed help with legal fees because his name was being dragged unfairly. I stared at that line, and I felt a cold laugh rise. Logan was not asking for forgiveness. He was asking for cover. I sent one reply, brief and firm. I said I would not interfere with the process, and I would not rescue him from consequences. After that, he called me selfish. Douglas called me heartless. The words did not land the way they used to, because I had something they could not argue with, proof. Martin Prescott met with me again, and he explained what could happen next. He said the attempted beneficiary change and false statements could trigger court review, and it could also trigger professional consequences for anyone involved. He spoke carefully, because he did not want me to confuse consequence with revenge. He said my role was to protect my interests, and to tell the truth when asked. He reminded me that Margot Hartley's intent was clear, and the trust structure was designed to remove control from Douglas Hartley. Martin also warned me that Douglas might try to paint himself as a victim, and paint me as greedy, because shame is easier than accountability. I asked Martin what Margot wrote about Douglas, and he handed me a copy of her letter. In it, she said Douglas loved power more than people, and she feared he would punish me for being independent. Reading that hurt, because it confirmed what I felt, but never named. Martin said the best way to honor Margot was not to argue with the family, but to follow the process. He said the record would speak, and the record would last longer than any holiday performance. I left his office feeling heavy, but steady. I realized that boundaries are not cruelty. They are the price of surviving a family that only respects you when you are quiet. The formal notice came through, and it was the kind of paper that changes posture. Martin Prescott told me the court accepted the initial filings, and Douglas Hartley authority as any trustee figure was being suspended, pending review. Douglas reacted exactly as expected. He called me furious, saying Martin was manipulating me, and he said I was destroying my own family. I let him talk until he started insulting Margot Hartley again. Then I ended the call. I did not owe him unlimited access to my nervous system. Relatives began choosing sides more openly. Some stopped contacting me completely because they did not want to risk Douglas' anger. Others started sending careful apologies, saying they always felt the grounding was too much. I listened, but I did not rush to comfort them, because comfort was never offered to me. Logan Hartley tried to stay out of the spotlight, but the process kept pulling him in. Martin explained that signatures and communications would be reviewed, and that Logan actions mattered, even if he claimed Douglas led him. That week I walked past the Hawthorne Street house for the first time since everything changed. The porch looked the same, but the energy felt different. I realized I was not walking back into childhood. I was stepping into ownership, and ownership requires boundaries. I did not go inside yet. I just stood on the sidewalk, breathed in cold air, and told myself that I could take time. I did not need to perform forgiveness to look good. I needed to be safe. Logan Hartley asked to meet me alone, and I agreed only in a public place because I had learned to respect my instincts. He arrived looking tired, and for the first time, he did not look smug. He started with excuses, saying Douglas Hartley pressured him, saying he did not understand the legal language, saying he never meant for me to be hurt. I listened, then I asked a simple question. Did you ever tell Douglas to stop? Logan stared at the table, and he did not answer for a long moment. Then he admitted he liked the idea of being chosen, and he did not care what it cost me, because I was always fine. That line hit hard, because it revealed the family myth. I was always fine, so I could be sacrificed. Logan said he was scared now, because his name was attached to filings, and he could lose his career. He asked if I could tell Martin Prescott that he was not the mastermind. I told Logan that I was not there to assign blame for him. I was there to protect the truth. I said if he wanted to take responsibility, he could do it publicly, and he could stop blaming Douglas for every choice. Logan's face tightened, and the resentment flashed back through. He said I was enjoying this. I told him I did not enjoy anything about being humiliated, and I did not enjoy watching my family panic. I enjoyed being free, and that was different. When he left, I felt clearer. Logan was not trying to repair. He was trying to survive consequences, and he wanted me to carry him. A few days later, I drove to the cottage in Canon Beach because I needed space away from the noise. The ocean air hit me the moment I stepped out of the car, sharp and clean. The cottage was small, simple, and quiet, and I understood why Margot Hartley loved it. I unlocked the door with the temporary key Martin Prescott arranged, and I walked through rooms that smelled like old wood and salt. On the kitchen counter, there was a sealed envelope addressed to me in Margot handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it, and I read her words slowly. She wrote that she was sorry I had to learn hard lessons inside family walls, but she wanted me to have a place where no one could ground me, shame me, or silence me. She wrote that money is only useful when it buys safety, and safety is the first inheritance. I sat at the small table, listening to waves outside, and I cried for the first time since Thanksgiving. Not loud, not dramatic, just real. In that moment, I stopped wanting the family to understand. I wanted to understand myself. And I did. I was not greedy. I was not cruel. I was a woman finally stepping out of a story that made her small. When I returned from Canon Beach, the family pressure felt louder, like they were afraid I would disappear again. Douglas Hartley sent a message that sounded almost polite, saying he wanted to apologize, and he wanted to talk like adults. The words looked neat, but I could still hear the control underneath them. Martin Prescott warned me that apologies sometimes arrive when consequences become real, not when harm happens. I agreed to a phone call with Douglas, but I set a limit, and I said I would hang up if he insulted Margot Hartley again. Douglas started with regret, saying he never meant to embarrass me, and he was just trying to keep order at Thanksgiving. I asked him why order required humiliating me in front of relatives. He said, I challenged his authority, and authority is a word that always makes my stomach tighten. Douglas then said he only tried to adjust the trust because Logan Hartley needed stability, and I was already doing fine. I told him fine was not permission to steal from me. Douglas' voice rose, then he caught himself and tried to sound calm again. He said we could settle this quietly, and he hinted that the family would forgive me if I stopped pushing. I told him forgiveness does not come from people who cause the harm, and I ended the call. My hands shook after, not from fear, but from the old training, the habit of bracing for punishment. I took a slow breath and reminded myself, boundaries are not disrespect, they are protection. As the legal process continued, my phone became a parade of sudden affection. A cousin who laughed at the grounding asked if we could get coffee. An aunt who never checked on me sent a long message about family love. Someone even suggested I host Christmas at the Hawthorne Street house. Like the house was a stage and I was supposed to prove I was generous. I saw the pattern clearly now. They wanted access to the trust, not to me. Martin Prescott advised me to keep communication simple, because every emotional message can be twisted later. I wrote one group note to the relatives who kept pushing. I said I appreciated their concern, but I was focusing on the legal process, and I was not making financial decisions under pressure. Some replied with support, and some replied with anger, as if my boundary was an insult. Logan Hartley sent another message, saying he was suffering, and he did not deserve this. I saved it, Then I blocked him for a while because my mind needed rest. I visited the Hawthorne Street house with a locksmith and an inspector, and I started learning what ownership really means. There were repairs to plan, paperwork to sign, and practical steps to take. It felt grounding in a different way, not punishment, but stability. I realized Margot Hartley did not just leave me assets. She left me a chance to build a safe life without begging anyone to let me exist. Douglas Hartley tried one last public move, and he did it through relatives, not directly. A family group chat lit up with a message claiming I was being influenced by Martin Prescott, and that I was unstable, and that Margot Hartley would not have wanted conflict. The chat turned into a storm, some people defending me, some attacking me, some pretending they were neutral. I did not argue in the chat. I forwarded screenshots to Martin, because lies belong in evidence files, not in my head. Martin told me Douglas was trying to build a record of chaos, hoping to paint me as unreasonable. He said the best response was calm documentation. Later that night, Carol called, voice trembling, and she admitted Douglas was losing control at home. She said he blamed everyone, and he kept insisting he was the victim. Carol asked if I could please talk to him again, because he was spiraling. I told her I could not be his regulator, and I could not sacrifice my peace to manage his emotions. Carol cried, and she said she was sorry she did not stop the grounding. That apology mattered more than she knew, but it did not erase the past. I told her I needed time, and I needed her to tell the truth, even when Douglas got loud. When the call ended, I sat in my kitchen, and I felt the strangest thing, quiet. Douglas could shout, Logan could blame, relatives could gossip, but none of it changed the documents. And for once, my life was not decided by the loudest person in the room. The next court update arrived like a cold sunrise, steady and unavoidable. Martin Prescott called me early and said the review was moving forward. He said Douglas Hartley. Actions were now framed clearly as attempted interference with an irrevocable trust. He also said the false claim about not reaching me was being treated seriously. When I heard that, my stomach tightened, because I knew Douglas would react with rage. That afternoon, he called, and his voice shook under forced calm. He said Martin was ruining his reputation, and he said I was enjoying watching him suffer. I told him I did not want suffering. I wanted accountability. Douglas said he only tried to protect the family, and he said Margot Hartley was unfair to him. I reminded him that he grounded me in front of relatives for asking one question. I said the humiliation was the moment he showed his true intention: control. Douglas tried to twist it into discipline, and he said I needed boundaries. I told him I learned boundaries, and that is why I was not folding now. He asked what I wanted, like he expected a price. I said I wanted him to stop lying, and to stop sending people to pressure me. I said he should tell the family the truth, that I was never unreachable. He chose not to inform me. Douglas went quiet, and I could hear his breathing, heavy and angry. Then he said he would never apologize to Martin, and he would never admit wrongdoing. I answered that he did not need to apologize to Martin. He needed to admit what he did to me. I ended the call, and my hands did not shake this time. I felt sadness, but I also felt relief, because clarity is cleaner than hope. Logan Hartley tried to reach me again, through a cousin who wanted to play messenger. The cousin said Logan was scared, and he wanted to talk, and he promised he would be honest. I agreed to a short call, because I wanted to hear the truth in his voice. Logan started with excuses, saying Douglas Hartley pressured him, and he never wanted to hurt me. I asked him, again, "Did you sign anything to change the beneficiary?" Logan said yes, and he said he thought it was temporary, and he thought I would never know. Hearing that felt like a door closing, because it removed every last doubt. Logan said he did not expect Martin Prescott to show up, and he did not expect the family to turn on him. I told him the family did not turn on him. The paper trail did. Logan asked if I could tell Martin to focus on Douglas, not him. I told him no, because you do not get to borrow wrongdoing, then drop it when consequences arrive. Logan got angry and said I was punishing him for mistakes. I answered that mistakes are accidents, but signing filings and lying about contact is a choice. Logan went quiet and his voice turned small, asking if I hated him. I said, hate was not the point, truth was. I told him he could start repairing by admitting what he did without blaming Douglas for every step. Logan did not promise that, he only begged for relief. When we hung up, I wrote down every line, time, and detail, because truth must be protected, especially when fear enters the room. While the family argued, I kept building a life that felt solid. I changed the locks at the Hawthorne Street house, and I scheduled repairs, slowly and carefully. I did not move in right away because I wanted the space to feel like mine, not like a battlefield. I spent one weekend at the Canon Beach cottage again, and I let the ocean sound reset my nervous system. I read Margot Hartley's letter one more time, and I underlined a sentence about safety being the first inheritance. Back home, I met with Martin Prescott, reviewed the next steps, and signed what needed signing. Martin said I was handling this with uncommon calm, and I told him calm was learned in survival. Relatives kept sending messages, some kind, some manipulative, and I kept my responses minimal. I was not performing forgiveness, and I was not performing anger. I was choosing stability. When Douglas Hartley tried to paint me as greedy again, I reminded myself that greed is taking, not reclaiming. I thought about Thanksgiving, the laughter, the grounding, the walk down the hallway. Then I thought about now, the documents, the boundaries, the quiet power of being believed. Margot did not leave me only money. She left me proof, structure, and a way out. And I decided that no matter how the family tried to rewrite it, my story would stay simple. I asked a question, I was punished for it, and the truth still arrived. The next time the family gathered, it was not for food or tradition. It was for damage control. Douglas Hartley had been calling relatives nonstop, trying to rebuild his authority through loyalty. Some people still listened out of habit, but more people started asking questions, because Martin Prescott had facts, dates, and filings. Douglas tried to blame everyone. He blamed Margot Hartley for being unfair. He blamed Martin for being aggressive, and he blamed me for refusing to cooperate. The problem was, the record did not care about his emotions. A cousin told me Douglas had been telling people I was unstable, and that the trust should be frozen for my own safety. When I heard that, I did not panic. I forwarded the message to Martin, and Martin said this was exactly why Margot built protections. Martin explained that Douglas could say anything in a living room, but courts follow evidence, not performances. Douglas then tried a softer tactic, sending a message saying he missed me, and that he wanted to be a father again. The line felt rehearsed, because it arrived only after he lost leverage. I did not reply. I spent that evening at the Hawthorne Street house, walking through rooms slowly, imagining what peace could look like there. I opened windows, let cold air move through, and I reminded myself that safety does not require permission. If Douglas wanted a relationship, it would require humility. And humility was not something he practiced when the room was watching. Martin Prescott met with me to review the latest filings, and he explained the next steps with careful clarity. He said the attempted beneficiary change and the false statements were not only personal betrayals, they were legal actions with real consequences. He said, Douglas Hartley would likely be removed from any control position, and a formal record would follow him. Martin, also, said Logan Hartley's actions could trigger professional review, depending on his role and his statements. When I asked what that meant, Martin said it could include an ethics complaint, because lying to a court is not a casual mistake. I felt a tightness in my chest, not because I wanted Logan punished, but because I finally saw how far they went to keep me small. Martin reminded me again, this is not about revenge. This is about protecting intent and honoring Margot Hartley planning. He handed me copies of Margot letters where she described patterns of humiliation and control, and she wrote that I deserved a life without fear. Reading her words made my eyes sting, because she saw what I tried to deny for years. Martin asked me what I wanted long-term, and I said I wanted stability, and I wanted distance from manipulation. Martin nodded and said stability is often built by boundaries, and boundaries feel harsh only to people who benefit from your silence. Douglas Hartley tried one more time to pull me back into the old role, the daughter who must fix the mood. He sent Carol to call me, and her voice sounded tired, like she was carrying everyone again. Carol said Douglas was unraveling, and Logan Hartley was panicking, and relatives were choosing sides. She asked if I could please meet Douglas, just once, to calm things down. I told her I understood she wanted peace, but peace built on my silence is not peace. Carol started crying, and she said she wished she had stopped the grounding, and she wished she had protected me sooner. I told her I believed she meant it, and I also told her that I could not keep paying for other people's comfort. I said I would talk to Douglas only if he accepted responsibility, without blaming Margot, without blaming Martin, and without calling me greedy. Carol went quiet, then she said she did not know if he could do that. I answered that if he cannot do that, then a meeting would only reopen the wound. That night I drove to the cottage in Canon Beach again, and I sat with the sound of waves outside. I thought about the living room full of relatives, the laughter, the word grounded, and the walk down the hallway. Then I thought about now, the record, the locks, the quiet space Margot Hartley left me. I realized the biggest change was not the trust, it was me. I no longer negotiate my dignity, and I do not trade my peace for a seat at a table that only respects me when I am obedient. Douglas Hartley could not accept a clean loss, so he tried to rewrite the reason. He started telling relatives that Margot Hartley was manipulated, and that she was bitter, and that her trust was a punishment aimed at him. The story was convenient because it shifted attention away from his filings and toward her character. Martin Prescott warned me that this tactic is common because attacking the dead is easier than admitting guilt to the living. A cousin forwarded me a voice note where Douglas said he only grounded me because I was disrespectful, and he insisted he was protecting the family name. I saved it, and I did not respond because his voice was not the battlefield anymore. The record was. Martin filed another response, attaching proof that I was reachable the entire time and that notices were withheld intentionally. When Douglas learned that, he called me, voice shaking with fury, saying I was turning everyone against him. I told him no, his actions did that, and I asked him one question. Why did you not just tell me the truth from the beginning? Douglas said the truth would have caused conflict, and I said the lie caused worse. He tried to threaten me with family rejection, as if rejection was new. I reminded him I left his house in the middle of Thanksgiving, and I survived the silence. The line went quiet, and for a moment I heard something like fear, because his old weapon no longer worked. I ended the call, and I went back to my life, because stability is built by choosing what you do not engage. Logan Hartley stopped pretending this was about family and started begging like it was about survival. He sent a message asking for a private meeting, promising he would admit everything if I would just ask Martin Prescott to go easy. I agreed to meet in a public cafe because I wanted to hear him without giving him power. Logan arrived looking worn down, eyes red, posture tight, like he had not slept. He admitted he signed paperwork, and he admitted he knew it was wrong, but he said Douglas Hartley promised it would never be discovered. Logan said he thought I would stay quiet because the family trained me to stay quiet. Hearing that hurt because it was true, until it was not. Logan asked if I could forgive him, and the question sounded practiced like a shortcut. I told him forgiveness is not a lever you pull to avoid consequences. I told him he could begin repair by telling the truth without conditions, and by stopping the smear campaign. Logan's face tightened, and he asked if I wanted him to lose everything. I said I did not want harm, but I would not carry the cost of his choices. He tried to blame Douglas again, and I stopped him. I said you were an adult, and you signed, and you benefited, and you stayed silent while I was shamed. Logan looked down, and he did not argue, because there was nothing left to sell. When I left the cafe, I felt heavy, but also clear, because the truth had finally been spoken out loud. As the weeks passed, the drama lost momentum, because facts do that, they drain the theater. Martin Prescott confirmed that Douglas Hartley removal from control was moving forward, and that the trust protections Margot Hartley built were holding. Relatives slowly stopped texting. Once they realized I was not an open wallet, and I was not a stage for their opinions. Carol reached out quietly, not to pressure me, but to say she was sorry again, and she was trying to change how she lived. I did not promise reunion, but I acknowledged her honesty, because honesty is rare in our family. Douglas sent one last message that sounded small, saying he never expected this outcome. I did not answer, because my peace was not a debate topic. I spent a weekend at the Canon Beach cottage, and I walked along the water, letting wind clear my thoughts. I thought about that Thanksgiving living room, the laughter, the word grounded, and how I was treated like property. Then I thought about now, the locks, the documents, the letter from Margot, and the quiet safety I could finally feel in my body. The trust mattered, but the real inheritance was the boundary I learned to hold. I stopped asking my family to understand me, and I started understanding myself. If anyone asks why I do not return to fix the family mood, the answer is simple. I do not go back to places that call control love and call my dignity disrespect. The next update came from Martin Prescott, and it was blunt and official. He said, Douglas Hartley was formally removed from any trustee role, and the court record now reflected why. Douglas tried to act offended, but his voice sounded hollow, because facts do not care about pride. Relatives who once laughed at the grounding started calling it inappropriate, as if they just noticed. I did not accept their rewritten concern because it arrived only after proof. Douglas sent a message saying he lost everything because of me, and he said I should feel ashamed. I read it once. Then I saved it, and I did not reply. Martin said Douglas might face additional consequences because false statements do not disappear when feelings change. Logan Hartley started posting vague quotes online about betrayal and greed, hoping people would pity him. I ignored it, because social posts do not erase signatures. Carol called quietly, and she said the house felt cold, like everyone was waiting for the next hit. She admitted Douglas was blaming Margot Hartley even more, because blaming the dead is safer than facing the living. I told Carol I was not celebrating, I was protecting myself. That night I walked through the Hawthorne Street house again, and I opened every window for fresh air. I realized I was not taking a house from my father. I was receiving protection from my grandmother. Margot planned for this outcome, because she knew Douglas would not choose humility. I sat on the living room floor, listening to the empty quiet, and I felt a strange peace. The loudest man in my family was finally not deciding my future. Martin Prescott asked me to confirm a few details because Logan Hartley's statements were now part of the review. Logan sent one last message saying he was sorry and he would do anything to fix it. Then he added that I should tell Martin he was pressured and that he deserves mercy. I could hear the calculation inside his apology because he still centered himself. I replied once with one clean sentence, "I will not lie to protect you." Logan responded with anger, calling me cruel and saying I wanted him ruined. I did not want ruin. I wanted accountability, and accountability feels cruel to people who expected comfort. Martin said the best thing I could do was keep telling the truth consistently. He said, "Margot Hartley, trust was built to resist pressure, and it was doing its job." I thought about Thanksgiving again, and how Logan watched Douglas ground me, and how he never flinched. That memory made my answer easy. I did not owe Logan rescue, and I did not owe him silence. I spent that week focusing on practical steps, insurance, repairs, locks, and schedules. I visited the Canon Beach cottage, and I cleaned the porch slowly and carefully. It felt like reclaiming breath. One small action at a time. When Logan tried calling from a new number, I let it ring out. My peace was not a group project, and it was not a family negotiation. As the legal storm calmed, the emotional noise softened too. People stopped texting when they realized I would not fold. The relatives who wanted money moved on to a new target. Douglas Hartley became quieter because control is harder when the record is public. Carol visited once, alone, and she did not ask me to fix anything. She said she was sorry, and she said she was starting therapy because she finally saw how fear shaped her silence. I listened, and I believed she meant it, but I did not promise a reunion. I told her I needed consistency, not speeches. Carol nodded, and she did not argue, and that was new. After she left, I went to the Hawthorne Street house, and I made tea in the kitchen. I sat at the table, and I imagined Margot Hartley sitting across from me, calm and steady. I realized the trust was not only money. It was a boundary in legal form. It was my grandmother saying, "You will not be grounded again." I looked around the room, and I felt my body unclench because safety finally had a shape. I wrote one line in my notebook to keep it simple. I am not disobedient. I am free. The final paperwork arrived in a plain envelope, and it felt heavier than paper should. Martin Prescott called to confirm the last transfers were complete, and he said the trust was secure, protected exactly as Margot Hartley designed it. He also said the record now showed the truth clearly, that Douglas Hartley tried to change what he could not own, and that Logan Hartley helped, then pretended he did not. When I hung up, I stood in the Hawthorne Street house, alone in the quiet, and I listened to the silence that used to scare me. It did not scare me anymore. I thought about that Thanksgiving living room, the laughter, the word grounded, and the way Douglas tried to shrink me in front of everyone. I thought about the hallway, the childhood bedroom, and the moment I chose to leave in the night. Back then, I believed I was walking away from family, but I was actually walking toward myself. Margot Hartley did not leave me money so I could win. She left me safety so I could breathe. She left structure, proof, and a path that could not be bullied. Douglas can call it betrayal, and Logan can call it greed, but their labels no longer stick because the record does not bend. Carol can keep changing if she chooses, and I can decide distance without guilt. I opened the envelope, read the final confirmation, then placed it in a folder with everything else, not as a trophy, but as protection. That night, I drove to the Canon Beach cottage, and I walked along the water until the sky turned dark. I let the wind hit my face, and I felt something settle. Not revenge, not triumph, but peace. If anyone ever asks what Margot truly gave me, I will answer simply. She gave me a future where no one can punish me for asking questions, and no one can call control love, and no one can ground me again.